Hey, what's up? It's your girl Kia. I'm not gonna waste any time. I'm gonna dive right into this video because it is I know everybody watched the r.kelly docu-series on Lifetime last night. It was all over Twitter. It trended the entire 2 hours it was on, so it definitely made a huge impact. I'm blown away by the revelations of this show. I'm not gonna go in chronological order because there's no reason for that. I mean, we all know who he is, we know the music, but what we don't know is a lot of pieces of the story about how he's been treating women in his life. He really is a sexual predator. When he became famous, he didn't stop going to the high school he graduated from to pick up girls, and everybody saw him. His music teacher saw him, other people at the school, principal saw him, and everybody just thought it was odd that this man who's already graduated is now going after what they keep saying, young girls. I feel like saying young girls takes away from what they actually are. These are teenagers. These aren't young girls. These aren't 19-year-old girls, 20-year-olds. These are teenagers, and it needs to be said teenagers. And people would say, oh, that's odd, but no one really reported him. He was never arrested. He was never cited for anything. It was just oh, this is an odd situation. He becomes famous, and it continues. And he dates Aaliyah, which I say date, but I shouldn't really say date, but he takes advantage of Aaliyah because she wanted to be famous. And Aaliyah had a lot of people in her corner, and still no one said anything. No one said, okay, this is inappropriate. She's only 14, which, by the way, I don't know if anybody else thought this. I didn't realize Aaliyah was only 12 or 14 when she became famous. I thought she might have been 17 at the youngest, but she was really, really young, and they put her under the tutelage of R. Kelly. That's already a bad idea. Her mom has gone on Twitter and said, oh, we were around 24/7. I don't believe that. Because if you were around 24/7, how did the wedding happen? If you're around 24/7, unless you're telling everybody now that you basically consented to this older man marrying your 15-year-old daughter. Another weird aspect of the docu-series was that there were people in his corner who were helping this happen. They would go with him to the mall, to the school, to the McDonald's. When he married Aaliyah, someone had to forge the marriage certificate because she was too young at the time to get married. She was only 15. So they forged the certificate to say she was 18. And that's illegal. And the man who did this actually is in the docuseries, just kind of making it seem like it was bad, but I did it. Like, I don't know, it's not that big of a deal. It's a huge deal. It's a massive, huge deal that he did this. And I feel like there should be some kind of charges brought up against him because he's almost enabling a pedophile, because he's not a pedophile. So he's almost enabling a pedophile. But the marriage only lasts too much. It's annulled. They have done interviews together, Aaliyah and R. Kelly. And even in interviews, they are wearing matching outfits and calling each other their best friends. I don't know any girl who was in their teens who had a friend who was almost 15 years older than them. Like, no grown man is going to be a friend with a child. And then wearing the matching outfits, and when people asked them if they were in a relationship, they would say, no, we're just best friends. He's my best friend in the whole wide world. No, again, nobody has a best friend that's old. That's not normal. And again, people just brushing it off. It's not that big of a deal. So he continues, picks up more girls, and he starts to systematically kind of, you have to call it sexual abuse because he was controlling them, and they were teenage girls. So you have to call it sexual abuse because technically that's what it is. And he was just having sex with them, dictating what they can and cannot do, what they can say, where they can go, even when they could eat. And they were going along with it because they wanted to have singing careers. They wanted to be famous. And even the girls who were his background singers were young, and they saw things about him having sex with young girls, and they never really said anything. They just kind of went with it because it's R. Kelly, and they wanted to be famous, and they wanted to be on the road and have this lifestyle. So it made me wonder why no one said anything. And one of the girls in the series said something that kind of it just clutched my soul. She said, no one cared because we were black girls. And that, to me, it's sad, but it's true, and it's just so disgusting. When little white girls this happen to, when they're getting sexually abused, the whole world knows, it makes national news, it's crazy. But when black girls are being systematically abused by somebody like R. Kelly, it barely makes a blip on the radar. These rumors about R. Kelly have been out for years. And this man has been able to step in the name of love, and I believe I can fly his ass all the way around the world, making albums, doing tours, winning awards, and no one said anything, all the while he's got girls sleeping in his studio, teenage girls sleeping in his studio, living in his home. He's got his own wife having to ask permission to go eat food. This is sad. And what makes it even more sad is that all this is happening by a man who can't read or write. You're illiterate. How can a man who can't read or write control people, control women, and just build up this empire? I get it, musical genius, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And it's crazy to me that any of this really happened. Trying to think what else happened, because I'm in the car, so it's a little hard to concentrate. And it was just so much that they just gave out. It was just so much information to have to kind of process and get through. But so the second part of the series ends with what I think was a videotape of him peeing on the girl. What I didn't realize was that girl wasn't just some random girl. She was the niece of Sparkle. And Sparkle was a background singer for R. Kelly, but she always also had a song out called Be Careful. And I remember that song. And it was a really good song. And she was saying in the docuseries, because it was kind of weird how they did it, she was saying to the docuseries that she introduced her niece to R. Kelly, and then all of a sudden the niece started showing up, and it was a weird thing. But, it didn't really, it bothered her, but not so much that she would say something. Then we have another girl who was saying how, well, all of a sudden he brought this really, really young girl in, and I didn't know she was that young, and he wanted us to have sex and go down on each other, and he couldn't really use the video because I was crying in it. Like, it was awful. And you're going back and forth with the Sparkle story and the girl story, and you can't really put two and two together. Finally, they say at the last 5 minutes that the girl was Sparkle's niece, and that it came out the video of her having sex with the other girl. And the other girl found out that she, Sparkle's niece, was only 13 or 14 years old at the time. And that blew me away. Number one, Sparkle is in a position where I feel like you shouldn't have put your niece in that situation. If you see a young girl around a grown man, it should have been stopped, deaded immediately. And it wasn't. And it just blew me away. And yes, she was crying in the video, but she's still a part of why it happened. On no planet, on no place, way, shape, or form should your little niece be coming to the studio. If you even found that she was coming to the studio without you, you should have said something. You should have spoken up and said, I'm not comfortable with this. You need to go home. I'm calling your parents or something or anything. And then none of that was said. So R. Kelly is threatening to sue. I'm not sure what he's going to sue on. I know he made comments saying that, they know two of the girls are lying. That's cool if two of the girls are lying. Great. Fine. Those two girls are lying. But is your staff lying? Is your ex-wife lying? Is your security teams lying? Because all these people are telling the same exact story about going with you to these different things. These producers are saying they were uncomfortable being at your studio because there was young girls in the dark just waiting on R. Kelly. So what does he plan on suing for? Even if two girls are lying, everybody else seems to be telling the same consistent story. I used to like R. Kelly's music, but I'm done. I actually haven't really listened to his music in a long time. But I agree. Let's mute R. Kelly. Let's get him out of here. You cannot do this type of stuff and think you're going to continue a career in music. What he's doing and what he's done, not only to the Black community, but to just how we think of our musical icons is devastating. R. Kelly's got to get the fuck out of here. This is ridiculous, and there's no way he can survive this. This docu-series is damning. There's so much information. There's so many people with the same common story. I mean, if I had to listen to anybody, I would listen to his old lady doctor, what her name was, teacher, who said a long time ago, she would say, you need to stop coming around here and messing with these young girls. Or when she had to correct him about his sexually explicit lyrics. She knew where they came from because he was being sexually abused. Let's not negate that. But she had to tell him, this isn't appropriate. Or don't come back to the school because these girls are young. This has been going on for decades. So the next part of the docuseries comes on tonight. The final part comes on Saturday night. I look forward to seeing the rest of it, but we kind of know where it's going to go. I feel like it's only going to get worse. And let's watch what happens, I guess.